Welcome back everyone. I figured it was only appropriate to do a sequel to my recent Bridgerton video, and honestly the second book was an interesting comparison to the show. The first Bridgerton season was a pretty close retelling of the book. Not shot for shot, but pretty much hitting the same story beats. This is not at all the case for the second book. I was genuinely shocked how different both the show and the characters are, but damn, the drama was kinda spicy, not gonna lie. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna give you a quick synopsis of the story, and then I'm gonna break down how the characters and their dynamics are different. The Anthony-Kate dynamic is not even the most different in my opinion. It's actually between two characters I will touch on later, but let's get started. How different is the second Bridgerton book compared to the show? So the similarity to the show is that Kate and Edwina meet Anthony. Anthony decides that Edwina is his bride while forming a bond to Kate and eventually marrying her. The basic building blocks are the same, but here's where we get to the differences. Anthony kisses Kate pretty early in the story, as in chapter 8, contrasting the show where they kiss near the end of the season. So throughout the story, there is sexual chemistry that neither of them can deny. They also spend much more time together than in the show. He barely spends any time with Edwina if we're being frank, and he didn't even spend that much time with her in the show. The two lovebirds get caught in a compromising situation, literally almost sucking titty, and they get married about halfway through the book. At which point it's about them trying not to fall in love despite being married and banging more times than rabbits on heat. Absolutely failing at not falling in love, and then epilogue. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's start with our main Bridgerton boy. Anthony is very different in the book than he is in the show, significantly without the weight of the world on his shoulders. Don't get me wrong, he is still responsible, looking after the family, and family is still important to him, but so is fun. He talks about spending his time living life to the fullest, playing games, racing horses, and yes, sleeping with as many women as he can. The man is trying to compete with Mambo number 5. But unlike in the show where he just decides to have a wife because it's expected of him, in the book it's more the fact that he's close to turning 30 and has decided that those things just don't give him the satisfaction they once did. He's basically growing up. Anthony in the book is actually quite the player. I don't mean that he sleeps with a lot of women. I mean, he does do that, but right now what I mean is he's charming. He uses his good looks and charisma to get what and who he wants. He considers himself to be irresistible, and while normally I'd be like, sure mate, whatever you say, others seem to agree with him. More than one character mentions it, including Kate. He could probably seduce an iceberg. He's basically Henry Cavill. No offense to the actual actor, who's also a good looking man. Anthony actually likes flirting with Kate, using Rake foo on her. Firstly, he thinks it will win her over and make her like him, but also he finds it fun because she doesn't swoon over him immediately. She's a bit of a challenge. For a man who has everyone obsessing over him, he finds her resistance entertaining. There is very little we relish more than a challenge. But also, because he has more experience, it gives him ammo to use on her during their arguments. He likes that she lacks experience in these things because he can use it against her to make her flustered. It gives him a sense of power. This mindset massively backfires though. Remember when I said they kissed earlier in the books? Yeah, this wasn't planned by Anthony. The plan was to turn her on and leave her. He was going to leave her right there, bothered and breathless. But when it came to it, he unexpectedly couldn't stop and followed through. It kind of shows that while he's done all this before, these specific feelings are new to him. What I find really interesting is that his character motivation in the books are kind of different but have the same result. Confusing, but let me explain. Anthony basically has two main character motivations: the effect his dad had in dying and his mum being in pain after his death. In the show, he's against the concept of love because he saw the pain it caused his mother when his dad died. He both never wants to experience that pain, but he also doesn't want to be the cause of someone else feeling it. His mum spent months in depression and tears that basically gave him PTSD. In the book, he also has PTSD, but the focus is much more on the actual death of his dad. His dad actually seemed like a really cool guy, the perfect parent, playing with them, going on walks, chilling. Honestly, it was kind of weird to read compared to the first book. Both books start with the two male characters interacting with their dad, and we both know how that went for Simon with all the abuse. And then there's Anthony just living the dream with Super Dad until Super Dad died. The dad still does die from the bee sting, but the death itself is not as dramatic as in the show, with him dying in front of Anthony and his mum wailing. That being said, it had a much greater impact on Anthony. He basically decided that his dad is the greatest man of all time, so how could he possibly beat him in anything? The reason he's such a, let's call it, sampler of life, And Scared of Love is because he's completely convinced he's a dead man walking, with his timer running out before his 39th birthday, the same age his dad died. Edmund Bridgerton had died at the age of 38, and Anthony simply couldn't imagine ever surpassing his father in any way, even in years. Anthony completely believes in love, even believing he can fall in love, but refuses to leave a grieving widow and a family behind. He talks about it throughout the book. He is 28 at the time of the story, so he's basically convinced he has a decade left. To be clear, he knows he's being illogical, and that's why he doesn't talk to anyone about it. No one knows he feels this way, but he's completely certain he will not live to see 39. He's specifically looking for a wife who hits that beautiful sweet spot of someone he can get along with, but not fall in love with. He is basically looking for a friends with benefits to have children with. Enter Edwina. Interestingly, he doesn't go through the whole interview process with all the different ladies. He's quite quick to decide on Edwina. He meets Edwina before he meets Kate, but before meeting either of them, they already know about him. The first episode of the second season is called Rake with a capital R, and this is a reference to this book. Basically, Whistledown says there are two types of rakes. Rake with a capital R, which would basically be a manosphere podcast host. It's someone who brags about the girls they got with and feels the need to advertise it, even if some of it's a lie. The second rake, lowercase r, is basically a fuckboy. Someone who is actually successful with women, but prefers to keep it on the download. He doesn't feel the need to brag because he's actually getting some. Weirdly though, despite what the episode is called, Whistledown says that Anthony is a rake with a small case r. I guess rake with a lowercase r just didn't have the same ring to it on Netflix. But what is my point? Both Kate and Edwina read what Whistledown has said about Anthony, about his reputation. This is where the initial Kate defiance of his courting her sister comes from. And the fact that she finds Anthony charming is actually part of the problem, because she thinks he's playing her and her sister, which, to be honest, she ain't wrong at the beginning. Ironically, she thinks the same thing about Colin. The parents are trying to set Colin and Kate up at first. And obviously I know how the story goes because I've seen the show, but I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of shipping Colin and Kate during their brief encounter. He actually finds her amusing. She calls him a rake to his face, letting it slip out rather than being a direct call out, and he just laughs about it. I kind of loved Colin in the books. In the previous video, I said that Anthony is my favorite character in the first book. And while that is true, and I still like his character in this book, way more than in the show, I think I would call Colin my new favorite now. This man is a menace to society. TV show Colin always came across a little bland to me, to be honest. But book Colin is such a cheeky little fucker. To use a Vampire Diaries analogy, TV show Colin is basically Stefan and book Colin is basically Damon. And I've always been Team Damon. He basically orchestrates Anthony meeting Kate because he knows she doesn't like him, but he lies to his brother that she does. He is gassing up his brother like, you got this in the bag, bro. She respects you so much this will be easy to just throw him to the wolves. Honestly, I liked this Anthony-Kate meeting more. The horse race in the show was always a bit out of place for me. It wasn't bad, it just wasn't really for me. In the book, Colin sets up for them to meet and they have a dance where they banter. Something I don't understand is why both seasons changed the fact that the girls read about their love interest before meeting them and made prejudgments. Then the female characters have to understand there is more to them than their reputation and they change their mind. It feels like the whole point of Whistledown as a storytelling device to show that people make prejudgments. Also, I didn't mention this in the last video even though I was meant to, but the Duke finding out that Lady Whistledown wrote about him was kind of funny because obviously he hasn't been around and he has no idea that the gossip column is a thing. And it's like, excuse me? What do you mean there's someone writing about me? Like, imagine trying to explain to someone 200 years ago that there is a job where photographers follow people around to see what kind of breakfast they ate. And people actually give a shit. Kim Kardashian ate an avocado bagel and the crowd goes wild. I digress. The second reason she doesn't like him for her sister is because they kissed, which in her mind only confirms his rake behavior and also makes her start to fancy him, so there's also a jealousy concern. But the third reason they kind of do in the show, but it's much more embarrassing for Kate in the books. It's also what led to their kiss. In the show, in the first episode, Anthony is chatting to the men.
Do not tell us you were hoping for a love match.
Love is the last thing I desire.
Which basically makes him look kind of bad, but I also feel like they dialed it down. What he said wasn't great, but also wasn't terrible given the rules of their society. In the book, he comes across as an arsehole. Like, I like his character, but in this scene, he comes across as an arsehole. So the expectations are set. Kate is going to be embarrassed and Anthony's going to look like a douche. So let me give you the context. Do you remember the opera singer baddie from season 1? the one that Anthony was getting with. She finally appears in the second book. Kate sees Anthony flirting with her, and to avoid an awkward interaction goes into a spare room, which, like any rom-com or sitcom will tell you, is a terrible idea. Because of course she ends up in Anthony's study where he's bringing opera baddie. She then hides under the desk and has to listen to this man making arrangements with this woman to be his mistress after he gets married. This scene is kind of funny because Kate unintentionally fucks with his head. He is obsessed with her perfume or soap, basically her smell. And he is thinking about her a lot at this point. He even has a sex dream about her, so he wants the opera singer to, how do I put this politely, get his mind off of her. But as they're flirting, he's like, God damn, I can't get this woman out of my head. I can even smell her when she's not there. But obviously she is there because she's under the table, so he actually can smell her. I just thought it was kind of funny. But yeah, he eventually sees her, but the opera singer doesn't. The opera singer baddie leaves, at which point she comes out from under the desk and they have a confrontation, like, you're planning on cheating on my sister. He basically weasels his way out of it. I believe I said that was the case only if one does not love one's wife. And then he tries to use his sexy powers to make her horny. Gets horny himself and kisses her. She kisses him back before retreating and was like, why did you do that? And he was like, because I wanted to. And she was like, you know what, I'm leaving. And then we discover that Anthony has the balls the size of bowling balls, as he is then like, see you tomorrow when I go see your sister. My jaw dropped at that point. This man is moving different. They argue because, my man, at least give her a few hours to process or something. And she's like, you will never marry my sister, which, you know what? At that point, fair. He does look like a massive rake. Honestly, I kind of preferred their relationship in the books. I know I just had this whole scene about Anthony not looking good, but that aside, I prefer their relationship. And the reason why can be summarized in one simple word: banter. In the show, I find Kate quite argumentative, which in itself isn't a problem, but it means the transition from I hate you to
because I cannot imagine my life without you
was quite jarring for me. Actually, my favorite scene of theirs that season is probably the last one. Take away the kissing and the cuddling, and this is the kind of banter you get throughout the book.
And admit defeat? Never.
Secondly, Anthony's logic makes more sense to me. He knows he has feelings for Kate, and that's why he doesn't want to marry her. I like that. Don't get me wrong, he isn't Duke lick her toes with it being love at first sight, but he knows very quickly he could fall for her, and that's a problem for him. Also, there's another reference to feet attraction in this book, and I'm starting to think that I will find this author on feetfinders.com. Anyway, he basically gets trapped into a marriage with Kate. In the show, Anthony has a panic attack when he sees a bee near Kate, and they have a touching moment of her calming him down. In the book, it plays out differently. It's actually Anthony who comforts Kate first, as she has a phobia of storms.
What's the matter? Scared of a little lightning?
No, but in all seriousness, we find out later that her mum died the night of a thunderstorm. It wasn't anything related, it was a lung condition, but seeing her mum and the storm basically associates the two together and gives her PTSD. Anthony finds her freaking out and is sweet to her. I feel like this was an important scene as it made Kate massively warm up to him and showed they can be affectionate towards each other without arguing. In the show, we just get
The storm. I have always found them unsettling.
Then it is Anthony's turn to freak out as we get to the bee scene. Unlike in the show though, she doesn't manage to calm him down, and he basically lowers her dress and starts to suck the venom out of her. I've heard that one before. But it looks like the man is nuzzling on her nipples. To be clear, he's not actually nuzzling on her nipples, it's the same place where she gets stung in the show, so it's sort of close. They get caught by a few people, including both their mums and Mrs. Featherington, which is the last person you want catching you, meaning they have to get married to avoid scandal. Anthony is secretly, internally quite happy about the turn of events because he likes Kate, but Kate is not for a very specific reason. I want to talk a little bit about Kate so you understand why she wasn't happy about this marriage. Firstly, Kate is not as abrasive in the show. She isn't thorny, she's just blunt. Her whole character can be described with this one quote: knowing she should hold her tongue but speaking anyway. This is what puts most people off because the society is all about politeness. The Bridgertons, especially Anthony, like this directness about her though. She isn't outright rude like in the show, she just can't help but say what's on her mind. But she actually does want to get married and she hasn't given up on the concept. This might have to do with the fact that Kate is younger in the book, with her being 22 instead of 26 like in the show. So why did they wait so late to introduce her to the dating scene? It is because they can only afford one season, so they had to wait so that Edwina is old enough to also join the market. But Kate isn't considered a spinster yet, but she is running out of time. This means for the most part she does try to play by the rules of Bridgerton society, she just isn't very good at it. She's clumsy and lacks grace. She also isn't Hindu, with her families moving abroad in disgrace. Mary married her dad because he was a widower and they just lived in the countryside. But as they are running out of money, they come to find a suitable husband to provide for them. This part isn't too dissimilar to the show, except there isn't any grandparents' money pressure. But there is also another good reason why she isn't married. This is where we get to what I mentioned was the biggest character dynamic change from the show. I mean, Anthony and Kate's relationship is different in execution, but the idea is pretty much the same. They banter and they have sexual chemistry. Argue and sex. That's them. But Kate and Edwina do not have the same dynamic at all. Kate isn't her mum, Mary is. Kate is simply an older sister. There is a sense of overprotectiveness like there is with any older sibling, but for the most part, they aren't that different. Edwina also is strong-headed with banter. It's just compared to Kate, she's better at keeping her tongue under control, so she seems more civil. But also Edwina knows they're having money problems and she knows what she's there to do. Honestly, it's the main reason she goes along with Anthony. She doesn't even like him that much, let alone love him like in the show.
I want nothing more than to be his wife.
She finds out that Kate is marrying him and she's like, amazing. I'm gonna go marry this poor boy who likes to read. Edwina's main focal point for a partner was intelligence. She doesn't really care about titles or looks. I like this version of Edwina because she feels more independent and less sheltered, having autonomy throughout the book, not just at the end, making her own choices and having more information. She has a give and take relationship with Kate. I also like the fact she didn't blow up at her sister when she found out. She was like, I ain't stupid, I saw y'all flirting. Don't get me wrong, Edwina had every right to blow up in the show, but the book has different context. But most importantly to the story is that the dynamic includes the fact that Kate has an inferiority complex compared to her sister. Her sister is a baddie, not only being named Diamond of the Season, but her whole life there's been no interest left for Kate, because compared to Edwina, she looks bland. She is suffering by comparison. Imagine spending your whole life standing next to Margaret Robbie. That's basically Kate's existence. But she isn't bad looking herself. It's ironic because Daphne kind of felt the same way in the first book, but while she felt on the outskirts of women in general, Kate has a very specific outlet for her insecurity. In this way, her and Anthony are very similar, but while she feels second best to her sister, Anthony feels like he'll never live up to his father. This is why she's not happy about the marriage, because she is convinced Anthony would rather be with her sister. She feels like a consolation prize, and she feels like he's only marrying her because he got trapped into it. When they first have sex, she literally stops halfway through to ask him if he's picturing her sister in his head. Talk about a mood killer, like what are you meant to say at that point? She thinks she loves him and he doesn't love her, which is not helped by the case that Anthony tells her the day before their wedding she should not expect love for him. I ain't gonna love you, bro, but we'll be good friends, is a rough translation. This did not help this woman's insecurities, but he's only doing that because he knows for a fact he is falling in love with her and he doesn't want to because he doesn't want to leave her as an upset widow. Eventually he falls in love with her anyway, and she has a carriage accident. This is sort of presented in the show with her falling off the horse, but I promise you, Book Kate would not be on a horse in that weather. In this version, it's a carriage accident, and he thinks she's dead, and is basically kneeling over her like, it should have been me, why was it not me? And then she obviously hears him and she's like, why did you say that? He then tells her the first person ever about his 30-year-old death deadline. And you know what? She handles it really fucking well. She's basically like, I think you're being ridiculous, but I get feelings aren't always based on facts. And at the end of the day, we could all die before 39. So let's live life to the fullest. And they actually start acting like a married couple. The epilogue is Anthony turning 39, so 10 years in the future, and obviously still surviving. But what an amazing twist that would be. Like, Anthony was right all along. The Grim Reaper came knocking. But no, obviously it's a romance novel, so they went for the happily ever after, they have 3 kids, and they're super happy. Interestingly, at this point in the stories, Book 2, Penelope still hasn't been revealed as Lazy Whistledown. In the previous video on Book 1, I doubt she even was, but the comment section corrected me. luckily. So this is my question as someone who hasn't read the next books. In the epilogue, there's a 10-year time skip, and Anthony doesn't know that Penelope is Whistledown. So when do the Bridgertons find out? Like, does the story continue from where we are 10 years in the future? Do the next book go back to where the story originally ended and no one thought to let Anthony know when they find out? Maybe if this video does well, I'll do a part 3 on season 3. Originally, I set the bar at 1,000 likes and you lot smashed that target. I couldn't believe it. Full discretion, I was not planning on reading the second book, so it shocked me in a very, very positive way. So thank you all for liking it. But this time, I'm gonna set you guys a challenge. I'm gonna set the bar a little bit higher. Let's say 3,000 likes and I'll do a part 3. I believe in you all. So hit that like button plus that subscribe button if you haven't already. I got a ton of fun video ideas coming out. But I digress. We have now covered all the big plot stuff. So I was thinking I'll do a quick fire round on some of my thoughts that don't really affect the plot, but I just found interesting, I suppose. Firstly, Lady Danbury is only in one scene, which is even less than in the first book, which I already complained is not enough Lady Danbury. Give me more of that old battle axe. Their words, not mine. Still no queen. You are surely missed, your highness. Penelope has lost 2 stones between the books, which, you know, good for her. I also find it ironic that she's telling Kate not to trust Lady Whistledown. One can't always trust the gossips. Like, you need to up your marketing strategy. I feel like my feelings on the scene would have been different if I didn't know she is Whistledown. Also, interestingly, Colin and Penelope literally have not had a single scene together in the last 2 books. Anthony at least has spoken to her. So I'm going to make a prediction here that out of all the books, their relationship is going to be the most different. Maybe my theory will be confirmed if and when I read the 3rd book. This was a weird change, but it's something that I noticed. In the show, Newton, Kate's dog, hates Anthony. In the book, he loves Anthony. He listens to him like no one else. Even Kate doesn't have that much influence over him. Maybe they wanted to add another obstacle in the show because we all know that the best way to a dog girl's heart is through her pet. I don't know. Nigel's back. I was happy Nigel is back. I hope he gets his happy ending. I realized that Nigel in the book is not Nigel in the show. It's actually this guy on the screen right here. Dorky, uncoordinated, not respected, but you know what? Seems like a sweet enough dude. I hope he finds his own diamond. They still play that game. But Edwina doesn't quit when it gets hard. She plays as hard as the rest of them. I think this is part of the change that they made in the show where they wanted her to be more different than her sister. Funny moment for me. When Anthony first comes to court Edwina, he pulls out an absolute classic from the Bridgerton handbook. Those who have seen my first video know that the reason why Daphne falls in love with the Duke is because he brings her mum flowers. Anthony decides to do the same thing for Mary, their mum, and Kate. I was literally thinking, damn, he's put in an assignment, and then the book immediately confirmed it. I must confess, a suitor for my sister's hand once did the same thing for my mother. And I was like, you know what? If it works, it works. I might try it next time. I also came to realize who Anthony actually is. He is Alexander Hamilton. Just making the right choice. If Anthony hadn't married Edwina, he would have been lusting after his wife's sister. And we both know that Hamilton is not the poster child for a happy marriage. So Anthony is Hamilton making healthy life choices. Overall, I preferred the main relationship in the books to the show. I think that's mostly because the focus was actually the relationship. In the show, they had so much going on, I felt like they kind of overdid it with the side plots. Like Bridgerton season 1 was like 80% the main relationship and then 20% other stuff. The second season was like 30% their relationship, 30% Penelope as Whistledown, 20% of the Featherington scam, 10% of Benedict at art school, and 20% of Eloise discovering feminism. Don't question my maths there, just accept it. The book focuses much more on the relationship and was different from the first book in a lot of ways, which kept it fresh. They kissed earlier, they fell in love later. Daphne and Simon's main problem was sex related, while that part Anthony and Kate had down. It was other parts that they had problems with. I wouldn't necessarily say I loved the book. I felt it dragged in a lot of places and it would have been better if it was maybe 3-4 chapters shorter, but their relationship had much better progression, better banter, and we actually got to see them together. But hey, you know what? Maybe I'm alone in this. I know tons of people who prefer the second season. If you made it this far in the video, you might as well let me know which season did you prefer. I'm not even going to ask you if season 3 is your favorite because I can't believe there's someone out there whose season 3 is their favorite season. Maybe prove me wrong. I am also considering adding ratings to my book reviews. Let me know if that's something you guys want. Like, you actually want to know if I'd recommend the book, maybe give it a rating out of 10. But I don't know. Just something I thought about. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe on the way out and give me a like if you want to see me reach my goal and do a 3rd Bridgerton video. Colin was my favorite after all, so maybe it'll be my favorite book. Who knows? It was my least favorite season, so could be a fun comparison. Otherwise, check out my whole book versus show series for more content and see you in the next video.